What's up, guys? Sometimes life can just get a bit crazy, and that's what's happened to me over the last couple of weeks, and that's kind of why I haven't been uploading videos as frequently over the last week or so. So I just thought I'd quickly explain that before I then relate it all back to Formula One. My life over the last week has been 2 days of filming the Wheeler Dealers project, which is going so well, by the way, and I'll be able to take you guys down to set shortly. I've had some permission to film certain things, so you better come and have a look around. It's going well, really enjoying working with Mike and the whole team, so that's great. I went from there straight on to Switzerland to film the next Formula E track guide for a couple of days. Also amazing, beautiful city in Bern in Switzerland. Amazing track as well. Formula E fans, keep an eye out for that one. That is a proper roller coaster of a circuit. I then came home to the UK for about 14 hours where I had to be back in the UK to help Claire, my wife, set up for an antiques fair that she's doing today before I was then back on a plane. And I'm now in Vienna in Austria where I'm presenting part of a show today for a big sort of travel organisation that have brought lots of travel companies together. So it's all talking about Formula One, of course. We've just done a rehearsal at the events this afternoon. So it's busy, and that's been kind of typical of my weeks in recent times. And you'll never hear me complaining about work because I genuinely love my job. You know, I couldn't be sat at home or sat in an office every day doing the same thing. For me, I can't do that. I need to be constantly on the move. I need to be constantly doing something, moving about, trying something new. I need to be busy. So you won't hear me complaining. This is not a complaint. But at times, all of that can start to feel like it gets on top of you. And I'm sure we all feel this at times. It can feel like it gets too much at times, and that can be that you're too busy, you don't have enough time on your hands, you haven't got enough money to do the things you want to do, or you've got health problems or restrictions that stop you doing what you think you want to do. We all have those things. And for me, I kind of recently just took a moment to step back and look at what was going on in my life, along with my wife Claire. And we said, look, things are getting crazy for her and for me. We need to take a moment here and just appreciate what we've got and to spend some time without work and focusing on the family. And so that's why they've not been videos over the last couple of weeks to the same frequency, because we had that little mini break in Marrakesh, which was really important for us. Couldn't afford it, but it became bumped up the priority list because, you know, when we stepped back and looked at the picture, we needed to focus a bit more attention on family. So we did that. There was no work. The last couple of days, I took the decision not to upload a video, mostly because I kind of need to get some sleep. And now I feel a bit more refreshed and energized, and hopefully we can attack it again over the next week or so. So I hope you appreciate that's why I haven't been doing them at the same frequency level. But to relate this back to Formula One, I was thinking about Ferrari and Ferrari's struggles and taking the idea of kind of having a bit of tunnel vision and being too focused on the daily routine of fighting fires. It kind of feels a little bit like that's what's going on at Ferrari at the moment. They seem to be on the back foot, which means that they're constantly kind of having to make decisions on the fly. They're not always getting those decisions right because the pressure of making those quick snap-fire decisions is perhaps getting too much. The strategy decisions seem hesitant in making them, and then when they make them, they're not always the right ones. They don't seem to be focused enough, or certainly they don't seem to have enough understanding yet of perhaps one of the biggest differentiators in 2019, tyres. And this is not Ferrari specific, because lots of teams are having struggles understanding tyres and understanding how they get them into that operating window and keep them there in this tight temperature window where they work, and when they're outside of that window they simply don't work, and then your whole car doesn't work and performance disappears. So I don't think we're getting a true picture of the merits of Ferrari's aero platform, for example, or its suspension kinematics, or its mechanical grip in general. But I think all of that gets affected by whether or not tyres are in the right working range. And bear in mind, this is me judging this from a distance. I don't have all the information, but this is my kind of overall snapshot of the picture, because it's not specific to Ferrari. Lots of teams are having this, as I said. And for me, Ferrari need to take a bit of a step back and see this big wide picture and think, where are we going? Where is Ferrari going? What's our overall goals? Because if you look at our main rivals in Mercedes, that's what they've done. They have taken a big long-term view at Mercedes to build something that was going to be dominant or successful, but then dominant. And they're seeing that through now. Ferrari may need to take some decisions that may not be popular in the short term. They need to not be focusing on whether Sebastian is their number one driver and whether they need to keep him happy and whether they need to make team orders to switch him into the front. Those things don't really matter when you step back. They're not that important. They perhaps need to start looking at this season. They're not. In reality, Ferrari need a miracle if they're going to win something this season. So perhaps they need to be looking longer term. How do we build a team that has the tools, the resources, the people that can get an absolute understanding of every aspect of our car? Build a culture inside that organisation, a little bit like the way that Mercedes have done under the leadership of Toto Wolff, that not only will give us results, not necessarily right now, but in the short term, but a culture that can be developed and operated over the longer term and will continue to generate great people, great working practices, and ultimately results. So that's kind of a little snapshot of what I thought when I was looking at Ferrari and comparing it to this whole idea of slight tunnel vision and focusing on perhaps the wrong areas for the bigger view. And then I started to think about, Formula One in general maybe has this same issue, because when I said at the beginning, we all have this, we all suffer with this at times, where life can take over and it's very easy to get dragged along with it, swept up with what's going on, and very easy to take your eye off the bigger picture perhaps. And I wonder if Formula One has a similar issue, in that if you look back over the last decade and probably beyond, we've taken some decisions in Formula One that have had no thought about the longer term. It's all been about short-term gain. We've had some knee-jerk reactions that we know haven't worked. Think about qualifying, that debacle a few years ago. The idea when we banned technical communication on the radio, remember that? Just didn't work. Some of these little knee-jerk reactions that were all about short-term gain. We've gone to places that have been about bringing in cash, bringing in money for Bernie Ecclestone and the commercial rights holders of Formula One over the last few years. We've made decisions, given race hosting contracts to circuits that clearly they were never going to be able to afford. Pay TV, all of these things that seem short-sighted. So now Formula One needs to take a step back, and like I did, and look at this bigger picture and think, what's the most important thing here? Where is Formula One going? Where's it going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And I'm not disrespecting Liberty and the team at Formula One, who are essentially doing this. But are they doing it enough? Because everything we hear is that all the grand plans for 2021 and Formula One beyond that, they all sounded great when Liberty came out with their original press release, put their ideals down on paper. But the reality sounds like we're not actually going to get anywhere near those original ideals. So Formula One perhaps needs to take some decisions that may not be popular in the short term, but in the end might prove that becomes a longer term, more sustainable, more successful product. You think about the halo. I remember reading comments on Twitter, social media, from lots of people saying, I'm not going to watch Formula One anymore. If they bring that halo in, that's it for me, I'm finished, I'm done with it. I mean, I doubt very many of those people actually left or gave up on Formula One because the halo came in. It was a short-term decision, it's a longer-term decision that had to be made. It was unpopular, but we had to take safety seriously. And I know lots of you still don't like the halo. I don't particularly like it myself, but it's not a talking point week in, week out, is it? So some of these unpopular decisions will be unpopular for a short period of time, but in the longer term could end up being the right thing to do. And I think that Formula One has to start looking at that. Where is it going? Is it going to be dominated by automotive manufacturers forever? Probably not. Because what happens when they decide they've had enough and they want to go off and do Formula E or whatever else they want to do? They'll leave Formula One in the lurch. So we need something that enables Formula One to be standalone for a much longer period of time. So I don't know what the answers are. This is not a video about what the answers are. I mean, you can all pitch in and give me your solutions to this and your comments, and I'm sure you will. But this is about taking a step back and getting out of the tunnel vision view that I think lots of people in Formula One, and as I said earlier, in life in general, end up, not through necessarily their own fault. It just happens. Life happens like that. And sometimes we need reminding that we need to just step away from it all and reprioritise and think, what's the worst that can happen if we do this? But what are the bigger benefits that could happen as a result of doing this, whatever this might be? Anyway, that's my thoughts. Those are my philosophical thoughts for the day. Let me know what you think, because I just think it's interesting. It's just there's so much going on in Formula One at any given time. It's so busy, it's so frantic, just like life in general, that sometimes you need somebody else, not necessarily the teams who are swept along in this and only focused on their own gains and their own success. You need somebody else to step back and go, listen, look what's happening here, guys. Look, you're all so focused on the wrong things here. You know, you're focused on the here and now, which a Formula One team has to be, but the rule makers have to be focused on something much bigger than that. So I hope they can step back and take a bigger picture look, take charge of the situation for the future of Formula One, and make the right calls, even if they might not be the most popular ones. There you go. There's my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I'm sure you will. Hopefully, though, as I said earlier, I feel slightly more energetic now, slightly more reinvigorated. And over the next week, I was supposed to be filming Wheeler Dealers again all next week, but actually we've just had that's been pushed back for various reasons. So I've got 3 or 4 days at home next week, which is a perfect opportunity just to catch up on life admin, just stuff in general, and hopefully it will give me the chance to make a few more daily videos. So let me know if you've got anything specific you want me to cover. But of course, Monaco Grand Prix coming up next week, Berlin E-Prix as well, and of course we are well into Indy 500 season. So let me know your thoughts on all of that. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. Ta-da.